Welcome back to When Harry Met Board Games, where we feed our people with relatable content, and our victory condition is your satisfaction. I'm Harry, and before we go any further, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click on that bell notification. That way, when we are doing our thing, YouTube lets you know. Today, we're going to have a playthrough. Today, I'm going to be playing through this game right here, Ora Labora, designed by Uwe Rosenberg. And in particular, I'm going to be playing with the solo variant that the game comes with. And this is what the game looks like set up. There's lots of things to factor in. First of all, each player would get one of these heartland boards. In this case, for the solo game, there is one human player, and there is what the game refers to as the neutral player, an automa, if you will, although the automa is not a direct opponent that you are going to contest with, because the objective in the solo mode is to try to get to 500 points, folks. You heard it right, 500 points. That's a lot of points. Each of these heartlands come with a pre-designated area where you will place these forest tree cards and these more cards that you can use actions for throughout the game to either fell the trees in the forest or cut the peat in the moor as resources that you can acquire throughout the game, which will be useful. And boy, are there lots of resources in this game. This game is all about resource acquisition, resource management, resource conversion, as you will upgrade resources into more valuable versions of themselves. The gimmick of this game is this resource dial here, and it's really, really cool. First of all, we start the game with all of the resources, and we have clay, we have wood, we have coin, we have grain, we have sheep, we have peat, as I mentioned earlier, and we have stone, which the game does not start with the stone readily available, but it will be as the game progresses. And then we have the Joker, symbolized or indicated by this orange square here, and that's basically a wild that you can use for any resource of your choice. Now, as you rotate this down each round, you're going to change and vary up the quantities that players can receive when producing said goods. By the way, I mentioned that you have this neutral player. They start with no moors and no forests on their board, but they do have this builder's market card, which already starts with, they start the game with, and you place it in the upper left corner space right here. We have some plot tiles here. As the game progresses, we will be buying landscapes that will expand our heartland. You have these spaces right here, which will be for the above and below areas. And then we have coastlands for the leftmost part. You will add them to the left of your heartland. And on the reverse side here, you have hills and mountainsides, which you will add to the rightmost side. Now, when you organize these stacks, typically in regular Ora Labora, you stack them in ascending order as far as value. That way you have your cheapest plot cards or plot tiles on the top of the pile. However, for the solo variant, you actually do the inverse. You make sure that the most expensive plots are the ones that are on top, so it will be costly. We have some buildings. This game is all about building buildings, and we set aside buildings that are available to be built from the very beginning of the game. Also, throughout the game, we're going to have what's referred to as settlement phases, which are little milestones along the game where certain buildings become available, right? And we have 5 different settlement phases, numbered or lettered A through E. And again, when those phases are triggered, we will add more buildings to the communal lineup of cards that players can acquire. Now, each player also has 4 of these settlement cards that they already have available for these settlement phases, because along with making new buildings available, players are going to be building settlements as we go, adding settlements as they go. And there's 4 additional player-specific settlements that will become available throughout each of the respective settlement phases. Each heartland comes with 3 buildings already pre-populated so that you can use them for their benefit, for their action. And each player gets 3 of these workers. One in particular is the special worker. It is the prior, which allows you to place him on a building immediately upon building it. He's the only one that could do that. All right, so that's enough about setup. Let's get straight to it and explain. There's no starting resources in the solo variant, so we're going to get straight to it. The first thing you do on a round is if you have 3 workers, all 3 of your workers are already placed on a building, then you can remove and retrieve them. Otherwise, you have to work with the limited amount of workers that you might have available to you. Same thing goes with the neutral player. You would check to see if the neutral player has 3 workers all placed on their buildings, and then you would retrieve them. All right, then the next thing you do is you rotate the dial on the resource dial. You rotate it clockwise 1 space, thus changing the quantities that are available. So now all the starting resources, they're at a quantity of 2. So if you were to produce any of these resources, you would gain 2 of those resources. Okay, so on a player's turn, they get 2 actions, and among those actions there are a couple things you could choose. First of all, you can choose to place one of your workers on a building. That's an action you could do. Second of all, you can choose to build a building if you have the necessary resource and or money to build said building. And third, you could either fell these trees to produce wood equal to the resource indicator on the resource dial here, or to cut peat here, and again, acquire peat equal to the amount available on the resource dial. So those are the options you have on your turn. Also, if you wanted to, if you did not have a worker available, or if you were interested in an action that one of the opponent's buildings trigger, you could always pay 1 coin to the supply in order to use one of their available workers and place them on that spot. That rule is also applicable to a multiplayer game. Another couple actions you could do, free actions, they do not count towards your 3 actions. You could do that whenever you want. You could always convert any amount of grain to wheat. Also, you can always buy one of these landscape tiles, one of these plots, if you have the money. That's something you could do at any point in the game and does not count against your 3 actions. So I've rotated this. Let's see what I'm going to do. I have my 3 buildings to start the game with. I have my clay mound, which produces clay. I have my cloister office, which produces money, coin. And I have my farmyard, which allows me to get either 1 grain or 1 sheep. So what am I going to choose to do? I am going to, let's see. What buildings am I interested in building soon? We have the bakery, the windmill, the market, the harbor, the promenade, the harbor promenade, the stone merchant, the peat coal kiln, and the cloister courtyard. And very important, let me explain a little bit about the anatomy of these cards here. So for example, we have the bakery over here. And first of all, in the upper left-hand corner, we find the resources you need. I would need 2 clay and 1 wheat. But also, you find the prerequisite of the terrain type you need in order to build it. You can't just build it wherever you want on your heartland. So for example, this could be built anywhere on a coast, a plain, or a hillside. I do not have hillside and I do not have coast, but I do have plains. So this could be built almost, well, pretty much anywhere. Those are the 3 different terrain types. So that's really good to know. Here in this little shield symbol here, it tells me that at the end of the game, this is going to give me 4 victory points. So that's very valuable. And here, this 5 in this little house-shaped symbol, that's the dwelling value. This is how much points this is going to get me for every settlement that's adjacent to it. So the settlements in and of themselves have a couple of base points, but they're going to score you additional points if you put cards that have valuable dwelling values adjacent to them, orthogonally adjacent. And this building, it allows me to turn flour into bread, but I do have to spend half of an energy in order to do so. And some of the resources produce energy for you. Then it allows me to turn bread 2 times, up to 2 times, for 4 coins a piece. That is really, really cool. So that's something I might want to consider. It gets me lots of money, and money can be valuable in order to get those plot lands. And it's a very reasonable price, just 2 clay and 1 grain. I do have this cloister courtyard available. First of all, with cloister courtyards, they can be built anywhere, any terrain type, but any cloister card must be built adjacent to another cloister card on your player board, on your Heartland board. So the game starts with this arranged cloister office here on your board. So going forward, every subsequent cloister card needs to be built adjacent to one that's previously there. Now this would only cost me 2 wood, so it's very cost effective. It gives me 4 victory points and 4 dwelling victory points, or 4 dwelling value. And I could turn in 3 goods, 3 different goods, for 6 identical basic goods. So that sounds pretty good. I probably don't want to pass that up. So I am going to use my first action to fell a tree. And I'm going to fell the tree. I just simply remove it. And first of all, I carve out space on my heartland to place buildings, right? Because you cannot place buildings if you don't have space for them. So there's that. And also, I produce the resource. So the wood is at 2 on the dial. So I'm going to get 2 of these wood tokens, which represent the wood resource. And on the lower right-hand corner, you can see the little energy symbol, the fire symbol, 1. This tells me that each of these wood tokens is also worth 1 energy if ever there is an action that requires the consumption of energy. So I'm just going to put this here in my little area here. I've got 2 wood, and that was just my first action. Now I could choose to use my second action. And again, looking around here, I am very interested in this bakery. So I'm going to put one of my workers here on the clay mound, and this allows me to produce clay equal to the amount on the resource dial, which is currently 2. Oh, very important. I forgot to mention that whenever you consume a good, or I should say produce a good, you move it back to the 0 spot. From wherever it is, it goes all the way to 0. So I just used wood, and now I'm using clay, and I'm going to get 2 clay as well. Right here. 2 clay. And by the way, these resource tiles, they're double-sided because usually the opposite side is some sort of upgraded version of that original resource. So I got 2 clay, and notice I use this particular worker because you do have this one special worker here, the prior, which you want to save him as much as possible because you can use the prior as soon as you build a building. You can use him in order to activate that building's action immediately. Okay, so we are done with this turn, with my turn right here. And now we are going to rotate this dial right here. We're going to rotate it 1 space. And now wood and clay are worth 2 again. And all these other resources here are now worth 3. So let's see what I want to do. I think I want to start building some buildings. Let's see. I think I am going to... I'm going to build a bakery. Oh, no. I need some grain for that first. So yeah, I'm going to go to the farmyard over here. And I'm going to get... Not with my prior, I'm going to go with a regular lay brother. And I'm going to get one grain here, which will be useful because now I'm going to use these 2 clay for my second action. I'm going to use these 2 clay and this 1 grain here to build this bakery here. And I'm not going to occupy this spot here because, again, I want to leave this available for the cloister buildings. Instead, I'm going to place it right here, keeping in mind that it has 5 dwelling points. So I probably want to get one of my settlement cards, settlement buildings, onto a space adjacent to this because it would benefit greatly from that. So those were my 2 actions. I produced grain and I built this bakery. We are done with my turn here, and we will rotate the dial again 1 space to the left. All right, so the resources values are increasing. I only have 1 worker available, but I do have the 3 opponents' workers, which again, I could use their workers, spending 1 coin every time I do so. Unfortunately, I don't have any coins as of yet, so that's not really an option currently. I could go to my cloister office and produce 1 coin, but that sounds pretty meager. Instead, I think, you know what, I might just do that. So we do have, let's see. You know what? I'm going to get this cloister office here. I'm going to get 1 coin. Let's get that 1 coin. Have that available just in case I want to use my opponent's buildings. And for my second action, I am going to use this 1 coin here. And I'm going to pay to use an opponent's card right here, an opponent's worker, to place it. Where do I want to place it? I'm going to place it right here on the clay mound and try to get, do I want that? Do I want 3? Maybe, maybe not. No, I'm going to grab my coin back. I'm going to use this. I'm going to fell this tree right here. So I remove that, thus clearing space. And the wood indicator right now is at 3, so I will put it to 0, but I will gain 3 more wood resource tiles to my supply. And those are my 2 actions for this turn. We begin the next round. First of all, we retrieve all of our workers since all 3 of them are on the board. We will rotate the resource dial by 1. And now things are starting to get very, very valuable. And I think for my first action, I am going to build this cloister courtyard for 2 wood. And again, because I have my prior available, I could put him right here. And I could turn these 3 wood that I have, because it lets me change. Oh no, it has to be 3 different goods. So I can't do that right now anyways. Okay, so forget about that. I will build that with my first action. With my second action, I'm looking at it. I want this windmill right here, but I need a coast or a hillside. So that means it has to be on one of those plot lands. And right now, the top coastland here, or it's double-sided, reversible, is 7 coins. And I am quite whiles away from 7 coins. So let me just ignore that windmill here for now. The market. So now we do have this stone here. And stone is not currently available in the game, but you can use your joker, the joker resource, which is a wild card, to produce a resource that's not yet in the game. So there is some options. So a lot of these cards look like I'm going to need some coasts. Let me see. Oh, this stone merchant, not so here. And it's only 1 wood. So I think for my first action here, oh no, I already used 1 action. I built the cloister courtyard. For my second action, I think I'm going to build this here. It gives me 6 victory points. The dwelling value is very low, so I don't care so much about getting this adjacent to one of the settlements. But I will place this here. I will spend 1 wood. And we are done with my 2 turns. Okay, so we will proceed. We will rotate this here 1 space. And let's see if we want to produce anything. There's some valuable resources now at 6. And even that clay is at 5. I do want to get some money, ideally, and some flour. I need some flour here. What helps me produce flour? Oh, I need the windmill to produce flour, but I need money first. Ooh, this market here. Again, I need money. I need money, guys. All of these, to some extent, require money, but this one not so much. Okay, I am going to, for my first action, I am going to remove, I'm going to fell this tree right here. So that's the last forest in my heartland, and that's going to get me 3 wood, because that's where the indicator is. I'm going to slide it over to the 0. So I am really rich in wood, folks. And that was my first action. And for my second action, I am going to get the clay, which is at 5 right now. So I'm going to get 5 clay. All right, guys. So I just realized that I forgot that when I produce the grain and the coin from these buildings, I accrue equal to the value on it. For whatever reason, I only gained it 1 because it says 1 time. But that just refers to the fact that you just produce that resource 1 time. But again, it's always equivalent to the amount that's on that on the resource tile. So I am just going to grab a few more coins. If I win, guys, we'll all consider this an asterisk. I will grab a few more coins and lower this a few more spots. Lower the coin indicator a few more spots. And also, when I got grain earlier, I probably would have gotten something like 2 grain. So I'm going to get another one, and I'll lower this 1 spot. I believe it was like the second turn or so that I gained the grain. So yeah, so that's important to keep in mind. All right, so I did do my first action for this round, which was felling the tree. And for my second action, I think I'm going to produce, let's see, now I have some money, so there's something to think about. Do I want to get more money and hopefully soon be able to build this? We'll see. Okay, I think for my second turn, I'm going to build a building. I'm going to build this peat coal kiln. Now this gives me 4 victory points, but it gives you -2 dwelling value. So you don't want this to be next to one of your settlements because again, it'll lower its final score at the end of the game. So I'll just place this right here where so far it looks like it has no threat of being next to a settlement. And that cost me 1 clay. And I'm going to choose to use my prior immediately onto a building that I build. That's not an additional action. That's a free ability that your prior grants you. And this gives me +1 coal. I believe that's coal right here. And this gives you 3 energy, so it's a valuable resource. And it gives you +1 coin. So that's more money for me. And additionally, allows me to turn my peat, into coal. I don't have any peat right now because I haven't cut for peat yet. So that would have been a great action perhaps in the future, but whatever, I did it now. All right, so we are done. And we're just going to slide this over. This house here is just an indicator that when we pass through the dial entire rotation and make it back to this spot over here, that's going to trigger the first settlement phase, guys. All right, so here we go. So let's see what I want to do. I've got some money. Maybe I want to get some more money. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Okay, that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the cloister office and I'm going to get 4 money because the coin is on the 4 spot right here. That's going to give me 4 more money. And with a free action, this is not one of the 2 actions that counts against you, I'm going to spend 7 coins in order to build myself one of these plot lands here. And I'm going to build the coast or hillside. The windmill could do either one. But the harbor promenade can only do the coast side. So I'm actually going to build the coast side over here. And I'm going to place it here. One thing I forgot to mention from a tactical perspective is that all the buildings that are available at the end of at the beginning of the next settlement phase, all the buildings that are available will be freely added to the neutral player's board. So you want to do everything possible to build these and keep them out of his hands. Okay. So there's that. So that was my free action. I still got a second action. And with my second action, now I want to start looking into building. Yep, I'm going to build the windmill here. And that's going to cost me 3 wood. 3 wood. And it's going to cost me 2 clay. And this is a great building here because it gives you 10 victory points straight off the bat. And it has a dwelling value of 6. So if you can, you want to build adjacent to it. So I'm going to put it here in the coastland. Nothing can be built right here. But it does let you know that the sea itself has a dwelling value of 3. All right, so I built the windmill. That was my second action. We are done. Let's rotate this dial over here. All right. And let's see what we want to do here, folks. I only have 1 worker available on my end, but I could pay a coin to use one of the neutral players' workers here. What do I want to do? Can I build this market? I need 2 stone in order to build this market here. So I think I am going to... I need to have some spaces available for my settlements, guys. I'm running out of spaces here. So you know what? I'm going to use one of my actions to cut for peat. And the peat right now is at 7. So I'm going to lower it to 0. And I'm going to get 7 worth of peat. And the peat is very useful because, first of all, it gives you, each peat tile gives you 2 energy. And also, you can convert it to coal, which gives you even more energy. So I'm going to get 7 of these. And that's my first action. And then for my second action, I am going to, for my second action, I'm going to do it. No, I can't do it again because it would be 0 at this point. Unless I wanted to use the Joker, which I don't. I think for my second action, I'm just going to place this worker here and get some sheep. So the sheep is currently also at 7. So I will lower it to 0. And I will get it to get 7 of these. And no matter how much you wait for a resource to rotate, you're never going to be able to get more than 10. So you can't just prolong it forever to build it up. So there we go. I got 7 sheep here. And that was my second action. We move on to the next round. I get all my workers back because they've all been placed. We rotate the dial 1 space counterclockwise. And let's see what we're going to do here. Yeah, I'm going to use this worker here. And I'm going to get myself coin. And the way I'm going to get coin is I'm not going to use the coin itself because that would only get me 3. I'm actually going to get the Joker here and choose for it to count as coin. And it was at 7. So I'm going to be able to get 7 coin. That's a lot of money. 4, 5, 6, and 7. And I'm going to use my free action. I'm going to spend 6 of those 7 coins. Well, actually, no. I'm going to spend an additional 2. I'm going to spend 8 to get one of these heartland plots. And they're double-sided with different configurations as far as forest and peat that you have to pre-populate. So, yeah, I'm going to place this way here. And I'm going to gain wood and wood, or forest and forest, and more right here. We'll leave that there. So that was I did my first action and my bonus purchase action. For my second action, I'm going to produce that grain. Look how high the grain is. It's 7. So I'm going to move it over here to 0. I'm going to gain 7 grain for myself. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now all the resources are starting to look cheap again. And that was my second action. We are done. And we will rotate the dial over here. And let's see what I'm going to do. I'm going to fell a tree right here. Actually, I'm not too concerned with this spot. I'm going to carve this space out here as a peat. I'm going to cut peat. And the peat is currently at 3. I'm going to move it to 0. Gain 3 more peat. So for peat's sake, I have lots of it. That was my first action. And for my second action, I'm going to use my stone merchant building, which allows me up to 5 times I can convert a combination of 2 food and 1 energy into 1 stone. So this is a good way of getting stone before it becomes available. So I only have 2 food. Oh no, I have lots of food because I have all this grain here. So, but how much energy do I have? Do I have 5 energy? I do, and I will. Yes. All right. So I'm going to spend 5 energy. But do I have 10 food? I probably don't have 10 food. I have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 9 food. So I'm going to do 8 food here and 4 energy. 8 food and 4 energy. So that I could do this 4 times. And that's going to get me 4 stones. Then we're done with my turn. I'm going to move on and let's get all these workers back here. Rotate this resource dial here. And let's see what we can do. So I want to build this market here. But it has to go, it could go on a plane. But I want to leave some of these spots available for settlements. So they could be very optimal in the future. So I'm thinking of trying to get a plot land. So yeah, let me see if I could get some money. I need to get flour. The only way to get flour. What allows me here to get flour? The windmill allows me to turn grain into flour, but I just spent my grain to get stone because I really wanted to build those buildings. All right, so I'm going to use my first action here to fell these trees, and the wood is at 6. I will lower it to 0, and I'll grab myself 6 wood. And more than anything, even though it's useful to have the wood, I did that to clear the space for building. So we're done with that. And for my second action, I'm gonna get this market card here, which only costs 2 stone, and it has to be on a coast, a plains, or a hillside. So I will put it here, right next to this peat coal kiln, because that negative dwelling value will not impact this because this is not a settlement. And this has a very high dwelling value. It has a dwelling value of 8. So if I could get settlements on opposite sides of this, that could be very beneficial. So I'm building that, and as soon as I do, and this is my second action, by the way, I'm going to get my free placement of my prior to activate this building. And this building's action allows me to turn 4 different goods, only one time, for 1 bread and 7 coins. So let's see what 4 different goods I want to use. Definitely use a wood because I have a lot of those. I'll definitely use a peat. I'll definitely use a sheep. And then for the 4th one, stone is a little bit hard to come by. So I think I'm going to keep the stone, and I'm going to make the clay the 4th one. So those are 4 different goods. And now that allows me to produce 1 bread, which is worth 3 food, very valuable. And I have to 3 food, and it gets me 7 coins. So that's lots of money. And I'm going to use that free action now of building some plot lands. I got 7 coins just like that. And I'm wondering what I want to do as far as building, because I need this to be on a coastland, but I want this spot to be available for a settlement. So I'm going to spend, the topmost tile here is at 6. I'm going to spend 6 coins here to add another one of these right here to the left. So now I have more spaces to work with. And those are my 2 actions of the game. This was my free action of the turn, I should say. And we're done. We're going to move on to the next round. Rotate this dial over here. And let's see what happens. Okay, so I have 3 actions and 2 workers are available to me. I want to see if I could build this harbor promenade, and I can. So for my first action, I'm going to build this harbor promenade. It only costs me 1 wood and 1 stone. So there you go. And I had to place it on a coastland, and I'll place it right here. Okay. And then as far as actions are concerned, what else do I want to do? I want to look at which settlement. Now, we're getting close to the first settlement phase. So at this point, you want to look at your settlements and say which one do you want to build first. First of all, based on what you can afford, but also based on what benefit they might have for you. And I'm looking at the fishing village, and it's pretty expensive because it costs me 3 energy and 8 food. It's very valuable if I could get it adjacent to another settlement because its dwelling value is 6. So first of all, I got to see what I can afford. 7 food. I do have sheep, and sheep are worth lots of food. This is worth 3 energy. I do have the energy. So it's just a matter of what I want. So I'm going to go for the most valuable one. Yeah, I'm going to work towards this. I feel like I'm good with that one. Okay, so let's see what I want to do. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go to my cloister courtyard. And I'm going to turn 3 different goods. In this case, I'm going to grab 1 clay and 1 wood and 1 peat. And I'm going to turn them. It has to be 3 different goods. My cloister courtyard. I'm going to turn them into 6 identical goods. And I'm going to choose for them to be the Oh, it has to be 6 identical basic goods. So basic goods refers to the goods that are available from the beginning of the game. So I cannot choose for it to be stone, and I also can't choose one of the goods that I just turned in. So I turned in wood, clay, and peat. I guess I'm going to return them for 6 grain. 3, 4, 5, and 6. 6 grain. Okay. So that was my second action. Let's rotate this dial over here. And let's go with my next turn here. I'm going to go to the windmill over here. And I get to convert grain up to 7 times for flour and straw. And again, one of the free actions you get is you can turn grain into straw at any point in your turn. So this is just a way of doing that, but also gain some flour in return. So basically you didn't even lose your resource, you just upgraded it. So I'm just gonna do this here. I get to do this up to 6 times. I rotate it to straw, and straw has an energy value of half. So you lost the food value, but you gain some energy value. And I'm gonna get 6 flour on top of that. Right? And eventually you could turn flour into bread, which will be lots of food for you. So there's 6 flour. Okay, so that was my first action. And for my second action, I'm going to cut this peat right here. And the peat indicator is at 4. I will lower it to 0. And I will gain for myself 4 more in a game of... All right, so we're going to see what a settlement phase looks like in Ora Labora. There are typically at least 4 settlement phases throughout the game, sometimes 5 in the solo player game. There will be a 5th settlement phase, and the resource dial also has letters marked off there to show you when these settlement phases are triggered, and it's after at least 1 rotation of the dial, sometimes 2 for some of the letters. Once you get to that spot, you're going to take the building cards that correspond with the letter phase of the current settlement phase, and you're going to add them to the communal market of buildings that going forward players have available for purchase or for building. Now, usually players are going to have an opportunity to almost simultaneously do a few actions during the settlement phase. One of the things they could do is they could add more plot lands or landscapes to their main player area, and also they can build one of their available settlements. Also, because we're in settlement phase A, this settlement is now available also for purchase or for building, which in this case is the artist colony. And through each respective settlement phase, more and more of these settlements will be available for the players. Now, a very particular rule in the solo variant is that if there were any, at the beginning of the settlement phase, if there were any buildings left, and there weren't any, then all of them would be placed on the neutral player's player board. So it really incentivizes you to make very efficient decisions and make sure that they have as little opportunities as possible to gain these additional cards. If the neutral player does place cards on top of their board and there's no space for them, then you simply overlay them on previously placed buildings. Therefore, they will take those buildings, but they may not necessarily be available for use. Also, immediately after the neutral player has placed those buildings, if their prior is available, you can pay 1 coin in order to place it on a newly acquired building and trigger its action. Now, again, that rule only pertains to the solo mode. Otherwise, players are just simply looking at their available settlements, their costs, and seeing whether or not they can purchase any one of them and where they want to place it. So me, for example, I want this fishing village settlement. It needs to be placed on the coast, but luckily for me, I have lots of, well, not lots, but I have 2 coast spaces available. Also, I need to pay 3 energy and 8 food in order to build it. But it gives me 4 victory points, and it has a dwelling value of 6. That means if it's adjacent to other settlements, it will be helpful and useful to me. So factoring that in, I probably don't want to place this here because chances are I'm not going to put another settlement there because this peat kiln will subtract 2 points from that. So I'm actually going to place it on this bottom space right here. It's almost off camera. And because It's going to benefit from this harbor promenade, which has a dwelling value of 7. And if I add further landscape to the bottom of my main player board area, then I will have additional spaces that I can use to perhaps place a settlement there and get the most out of this. So now, first of all, I got to pay the amount. It is worth 3 energy. So I think I'm going to just turn in these 3 wood right here, and it's worth 8 food. And that would be the equivalent of 4 of these sheep tokens. And now I have the fishing village available. And this is pretty much it, guys. Ora and Labora. This is definitely a better game at 2 players. I'm not too sure. I think 2 players might be the best count for this game. But if you really like the mechanisms and the idea of the resource management, the resource conversion, and the building of the buildings and placing them, the spatial element of this game definitely has a spatial element that some of Uwe Rosenberg's other worker placement games may or may not have. But it's really, really cool of a game. But again, it shines perhaps at 2 players. But if you want to scratch that itch, it's satisfactory, at least, the solo mode. And you keep on doing this until you trigger a B, a C, a D, and eventually an E settlement phase. And again, the goal of the game, for you to technically be considered the winner, is to score 500 points. And that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us here when Harry Met Board Games. Please consider clicking on one of the videos that you see on the screen right now. Also, check in the description down below for a link to our Patreon account and see how you can support this channel and become more involved with the behind-the-scenes process. Research and find a tier that works for you. This is Harry saying take care, everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy, and have fun gaming. Bye-bye.